Hello everyone, how are you doing? It's the QA live stream time again. It's the fourth one, it's the final one of our four. Joined here with Mark Gerhard, CEO and lead designer ModMark. How are you doing, guys?
Pretty good, thanks.
All good?
Yeah, not
Very
too bad.
Excellent. Pumped and ready for our fourth and final Q&A?
Always been looking forward to this one.
Wicked. So this week it's the future of RuneScape. It's RuneScape 2013 and beyond, so it's exciting times. I know you've got a lot of great stuff up your sleeve. So.
Yep. Always so many cool ideas.
Awesome.
Just not enough time to do them all, as always.
So, so as ever, you've been sending us your questions and your comments over the last week or two, and we've gone through all of them. We've gone through Facebook, through Twitter, through the forums. Got a big long list here of the most asked questions, the most popular things you want to know about, and as ever, we're going to crack on. If you want to get involved in tonight's live stream, you can get in touch with us on Twitter. It's at RuneScape. The hashtag is RSLive. You can get us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/RuneScape. And of course, there's always the forums. Okay, I think that's all the housekeeping taken care of. Should we get going?
Let's go for it.
Brilliant. Okay then. So first off, then, I've got Jolly Roger from the forums. If the evolution of combat is not RS3, what are the major marks or distinctions of RS3? And you've got you've got Mark to thank for that question.
Yeah. Do you want to start on that one?
Yeah, sure. The project name's RuneScape 3. What we end up calling it, of course, is yet to be seen. But we're trying to bundle together our most formidable update that we've ever done, both technically, that graphics, audio, controller input, the full works, as well as also some really compelling content. I mean, clearly, evolution of combat is a big step forward and hints towards what we're trying to do. But we're also hoping to have some really interesting or innovative content too that we haven't spoken about yet, and we think our players will really appreciate.
Okay, so what are the major marks or distinctions?
Well, as Mark's saying, we're really looking for an improved experience for the players. So we're talking about updated audio, full tunes. I listened to an absolutely amazing few tracks the other day, new tunes for the website, new tunes for the opening experience of the game. We're also looking at a new kind of top-level interface, so new ways of players interacting with the product. And also things like improved world map. It's really improving those things that you experience and you just sort of take for granted every day where you're playing RuneScape. And then, as Mark says, we're looking for some really cool pieces of content to put alongside that. I'm just keeping my cards a bit close to my chest, really, in terms of what we've got planned. 2013 is going to be a massive year for RuneScape. We've got some really, really big things happening from a storytelling perspective and also the gameplay of RuneScape. So yeah, actually, of all the years that I've been here, I've never been so excited about a year's worth of content. And RuneScape 3, I guess, is just the kind of the tip of the iceberg. Really, it's what we're going to start with, and then you'll see all the cool stuff that we've got planned for the rest of the year.
Okay, cool. Stacey Begley on Facebook says, "I'd love to see the lag fixed. My computer's no slouch on graphics, but crowded areas are still problematic. Would HTML5 mean smoother gameplay?" I guess this is in reference to, we mentioned HTML5 not so long ago, so I guess that's in reference to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's in short, yes. Lag is always a tough one for us, because what does lag mean? Is it network loading time? Is it low frame rate? Is it the loading between map squares? But in short, we're trying to tackle all of those, and the expectation is, if your computer can run HTML5 adequately, it'd be a significantly elevated experience.
So what do you call lag then? Because I appreciate that different people maybe sort of give it have different ideas.
Yeah, it's interesting that people will shout about lag in the game, and sometimes it's things that we could do something about, like whether it's sort of, graphics that are running in the area, the amount of players that they've got running about, but sometimes it's their network, and there's not a lot that we can do about that. So I guess that's why sometimes it's frustrating when we hear people complaining about lag, but actually the issues that they describe, or the setups that they're running, or the networks that they're part of, aren't necessarily anything to do with us. But it's the reason why we want to provide sort of lower settings, I guess. So you can turn all your settings right down. So if you don't have a very good connection, you can still enjoy RuneScape. But as Mark was saying, one of the key things about HTML5, fingers crossed, the game looks better, sounds better, feels better, and runs faster. And that's really the kind of bottom line of what we're trying to achieve.
Okay, and plays on more devices, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
In time.
Yeah.
I'll ask you about that in a bit. Yeah. So Vazam on the forum says, will you do something similar to what you did with Classic and leave a few servers that are strictly RS2 while there are new servers for RS3?
So back when we did RuneScape 2, it was such a huge leap. It was so different from the kind of version of the game that we were running. It was impossible for us to sort of migrate everyone over. So we really gave the players the choice about what they wanted to do, whether they were going to play the old RuneScape, which was quite different in the way that a lot of the key sort of functionalities that you performed in the game, or you could move over to RuneScape 2. Because this time it's an upgrade to the entire game, an upgrade to the experience. It's really not a huge shift in terms of the little bits of gameplay that the players are interacting with. So that isn't the plan. Everything will be upgraded to the new game, if you like, and they won't need to have that choice because we're confident that everything that we're doing are things that the players will want to experience.
Yeah, we're not changing the underlying mechanics
No.
or kind of systems within the game, so it's going to play the way it's played before. But you can choose if you still want to use point and click or the keyboard, or we'll give you more variety and choice.
Yeah.
In terms of how you can enjoy the content rather than having changed the content per se.
Okay, so it's more like a natural kind of progression from where
like
we're
a
going.
next generation
Yeah.
of
Okay.
RuneScape.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Alfangor on the forums would like to know, what can we expect lore-wise in 2013?
So, again, it's a massive year next year. We're really looking at moving the game forward in terms of the sort of key players that are involved, in terms of the NPCs. The relationship between the player and the gods is a really big thing that we're doing next year. And we're going to be doing a lot more kind of events, really, a lot more things that are happening now that are relevant to the players right there and then in the game. So events that they can get involved with that kind of run over a period of months, where the actions that the players have taken dictate how the environment evolves, how the game evolves. And that's really, really cool. And the gods are very much central to that storyline. So one of the things that I've been talking to the team about this year is the way that the narrative works with the rest of the game. In the past, we've tried to sort of keep the narrative to just the quests, but actually I think that you can make the narrative work for everything. And if there's a little bit of storytelling, a bit of narrative involved with a mini game or a dungeon, I think it enriches the experience for everyone. So expect to find lore everywhere and not just tied to the quests.
And is that going to be tailored like to the player to a point? Then
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan.
So everyone's game will be slightly different almost?
Kind of, yeah, kind of. I think the key thing is allowing the players to sort of almost choose sides, I think, and decide what they're doing, how that's going to contribute to the game. So, let's say you're mining, and every time you mine, you get some additional thing. I don't want to say too much. And you choose where that thing goes, what god it goes to, what factions it's supporting, and then they're using that thing to get bigger. And then, after a certain amount of months, you can count up how many things have been given out.
This is sounding quite cryptic.
Yeah, it's deliberately cryptic, Paul. You could decide. You could decide who gets these things, and then whoever gets the most things gets to do cool things in the game.
Brilliant. So things are coming.
Yeah. I'm aware how many times they use the word things then. And to be honest
People
with
like
you,
things, though.
To be honest with you, I'm talking about what we're planning to do next year, and we're not even in October yet. And so a lot of these ideas are really, really fresh in my mind. They're things that I have discussed with my team for the last sort of week or two. And, even though I'm lucky enough to be the lead designer, I don't want to come up with all the ideas. What I'd rather do is create a really cool framework and say, this is the kind of outcomes that I would like, and then let my team decide, what gets filled, I guess.
Okay.
I'm just giving them the pot. They're deciding how that pot gets filled.
Okay.
So I don't want to tell you too many of my ideas because I know that the team are going to come up with better ones.
Okay.
You know? It's just, as always, it's just a case of choosing which ideas we like the most and then deciding which ones we're adding to the game. But don't worry, I have got a couple of reveals later on.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Wicked. Okay, cool. One there from the Wilderness Guardians. Hello, Wilderness Guardians. How you doing? Any updates planned for Wilderness to revitalise the art of PKing?
Yes. So
Good.
So we've got a
Next question.
We've got a big project planned for early next year, specifically involving the Wilderness, and it will be some of the activities that really start this whole thing rolling for next year. So what some of the cool ideas we've had are kind of like war bands walking across the Wilderness, where you've got generals and their rank and file, and they're sort of going to be fighting each other, and you can choose how you get involved. We're also looking at putting some more unique resources in the Wilderness, just to encourage non-PKers to go in there. We've been looking at all sorts of really, really cool ideas to do with the way that we can encourage more types of people in the Wilderness. And actually, a lot of the evolution of combat was planned around making PvP combat more interesting and therefore more engaging for more players. So, big update planned for the early parts of the year, specifically with the Wilderness. Then, towards the end of the year, we've got some other ideas, crazy ideas of things that we could do to encourage more people to be there. All sorts of things to do with almost like swapping XP around and different things like that. Or just, I don't know. Again, these are really, really early ideas. It's one of Chris Long's ideas, actually. He was sat here with me last week. Just to do with the way that you could sort of go in the Wilderness and build up like XP resources, and when you leave, you kind of cash them all in, and then if you die, you can sort of steal not only those resources, but the potential earned XP of people at the same time. Okay. Again, it's a really cool idea. It's exciting. Whether or not we choose to do it next year, I don't really know, but it's some of the ideas that we've got on the table right now. I'd like to do things like improve the agility return from the agility course that's there, make it more viable for players to go and train their agility, but obviously then you're encouraging more people to come and risk their loot. We're also looking at things like player jacking, specifically. Evolution of Combat, for example, will fix the issue where when you eat food, you can suddenly drop out of combat with your opponent and someone else can come in and get involved. That's going to get fixed. We've also had lots more interesting conversations about pile jumping, player jumping. So there's lots of small things that we're planning to do, and a big old update at the beginning of the year.
Okay, cool. And how much should we sort of like checking out the forums for PKs? And
every day.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So next question comes from Josh Taylor on Facebook. You re-release Classic. Will you ever be re-releasing other older versions, such as the 2004-2006 period?
No.
There we go. We're interested in the future. We're interested in making cool content for the future, not looking back at the past. I also think quite often people look at these things with kind of rose-tinted glasses. They believe the past to be more exciting than the now because they think fondly of those kind of memories. It's interesting, I love my cartoons. I've loved cartoons all my life, and it's interesting when you kind of look at, satellite TV, and suddenly they'll run a whole load of old cartoons. D'Artagnan and the Three Muskehounds, for example.
I remember loving that.
Absolutely. Watched a couple of episodes of that the other day. I was very, very disappointed. I remember how much I loved it when I was a kid.
The theme song's still got to be great, though.
Don't get me wrong. That was the main reason for watching it.
That's my favourite bit.
Yeah, and him chopping up the apple. I seem to remember that very clearly. But the memory of what I had for it was so much better than actually watching it again. I was kind of disappointed, and I often think that's how people think about RuneScape. Sometimes they think about the experiences they had then in their life. They think about especially when people were kind of like still at school and they were very relaxed and having fun, and now they're kind of a bit more grown up, a bit more adult, and they think about those days quite fondly. I'm not saying that there weren't some really cool bits of gameplay there, but I love the way that the game has evolved, and I want to carry on evolving the game. It's really strange that, one of the things that we're most famous for is the frequency of updates that we do. So if all you wanted to do was just play one game that never ever changed, I'm not quite sure why you choose to play RuneScape.
There's a solid history of a decade of evolution.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there elements from the game from back in the day that you do kind of like really fondly recall and would like to kind of, I don't know, maybe something that we've taken out in...
Yeah, I think Rangers often talk quite fondly about the old days because there were things like the magic shortbow special attack that was overpowered. You could really dominate in combat with something like that, and we changed it, and they often think quite nostalgically about the time when certain things were balanced in a different way. Although actually that's probably not such a great example because I feel like I'm shortchanging Rangers at the moment, really, although Evolution of Combat really brings them back up. Yeah, I expect to see a lot more Rangers and Majors running around. Usually we change these things, well, in fact, all the time we change these things for a very, very good reason. It's just sometimes it's difficult for people to understand those reasons as much as we try to explain ourselves.
I guess if they're not in the room with you while you're having these conversations, it's, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, I still miss Classic in many ways. I loved my PKing in Classic. I liked the fact that combat was based around this kind of 3-hit exchange that was going on. I loved that kind of content. And I could try and do a bit of PKing in the Classic these days, and I hardly ever see anyone, which, it's the right thing because we were focusing on the way that the game evolved, and now we've got a so much better game than I ever thought we could possibly have ever had, 8-9 years ago. So, yeah, I want to keep looking
fully
forwards.
voiced quests.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a perfect example.
Okay.
Never
Let's move on
done
then.
that in Classic.
No, right. That would have been quite funny though. I'm just trying to picture how that would have looked.
No.
Adventia Lily on Facebook says, when will RuneScape be playable on different devices?
So there's no date as yet, but it's something the team are looking at and actively working on as we speak. So hopefully early next year.
Yeah, that would be exciting.
That would be very exciting.
Yeah, a lot of the tech that we're working on now allows us to think about those kind of things in the future.
Okay. I'm never going to pronounce this name. Jacklip. Yeah, that'll do. Jacklip on Twitter says, have you ever considered making RuneScape a console game with online gameplay supporting systems like PS3 and Xbox?
Well, I mean, some of you guys might remember almost 4 years back that we had a project where we wrote a software parser that would actually output our code onto the Wii.
Right.
And we got very excited about that, and then the more we explored the possibility with the various platform holders, we very quickly realized we couldn't update our content weekly. In those days, which for us would be terminal, in those days, free-to-play was just not acceptable at all. I mean, one or two have changed their stance on that now. I think the thing that, for me, was the absolute no at the time was when every one of them said, you can't play with anyone else's community. They all wanted their own little walled gardens. And that was like, we're not going to fragment our community for the sake of a device. Again, if that changes in time, then I think it's something we'll look at. But we're probably more excited about the tablets and the other upcoming devices, be it smart TVs or anything else like that, where we think the future is going.
Yeah.
And perhaps at some point we'll go full circle and sweep up the consoles too. Technically speaking, there's no reason why we couldn't or wouldn't, but it's just not a priority right now, given all the other things we're working on.
Okay, cool.
I think also it's worthwhile saying that RuneScape is an incredibly rich world. There's so much content there, so many different ideas, so many groups, clans, stories, environments. It's what we call a really strong IP, in that you could take the RuneScape logo and you could come up with a beat 'em up. You could come up with a beat 'em up game, Street Fighter style combat, fighting gods, fighting each other. You could come up with crazy little mini games to do with chin chompers. You could do all sorts of different things. It'd be really nice to see other products out there that use the RuneScape logo and use our ideas, but it's not necessarily RuneScape. It's interesting that...
Like spin-off kind of satellite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just spin-off titles.
Well, we're going to do that. We're on mobile.
Yes.
Working on a project for RuneScape which does exactly that. And as you play this content offline, it helps support your character.
Well, tell us about that.
Online.
Well, again, this is some really early kind of discussions right now, just in terms of, it's a really cool idea. Imagine that you've been playing on your PC at home, then you're on the way to work, you're on your train. Wouldn't it be really cool if you could carry on interacting with a game that would be really cool and fun to play, and then who knows, you could earn some stuff in the game that you could then use in RuneScape, whether that was gold or experience points or anything like that. It would just be a really, really cool thing to do. We would love for our players to be able to interact with the game and also interact with the community, no matter where they were. What if you had a little app on your iPhone where you could still log into RuneScape, still talk to your friends, look at the prices on the Grand Exchange, those kind of things. Just other ways for people to still be connected to their avatar, even though they're not sat in front of their PC at home.
Okay.
That would be really cool stuff to do.
It does sound cool. Okay. This is a good one. George Fox on Facebook. Has development for the new skill started yet?
Yes. So first proper reveal of the day.
We
are currently working on 2 skills. We're working on a gathering skill. So the kind of skill, when I say gathering skill, I mean things like mining, woodcutting, or things like runecrafting, where you're actually gathering the materials. And then another skill, which is more like a finishing skill, or a production skill, as we call them, where you're actually doing cool things, making new things to use in the game. Those 2 skills won't necessarily be directly linked together. I'm not thinking about like a new mining and smithing, but it's that kind of thing. So we're looking at a new gathering skill and a new production skill, and both of those are in development right now, and they are also linked to the whole change in law that we've got planned for next year.
Okay. Didn't hear sailing mentioned there at all.
No, sadly, no sailing at this time. Don't forget, we're doing player-owned ports.
Yeah.
And that is going to be you building a port, attracting captains, changing your ships, building a crew, sending your ships off to look for certain things, look for certain adventures. So whilst you yourself aren't actually on the ship doing things,
you get to wave to them in the distance.
You get
to go over the
get to wave them. You get to
Bye.
wave, but they'll send you cool little messages as they're going along. We've been having quite a lot of fun recently, creatively coming up with cool names for ships, or coming up with technology to allow players to sort of build their own ship names, those kind of things. So I'm not intending to do anything like sailing just now.
Okay.
But player imports is sort of the first step in that kind of direction.
Will people be able to kind of like customize their ships or anything, or how does it? Yeah.
Yeah. So, how much do I want to say about this?
Not too much. But I'm going to keep asking you questions until you tell me to shut up. So.
Yes, you'll be able to upgrade your ship, so you'll be able to like change your masts and do various different things with all the different parts of your ship. Whether they're cannons or rigging or crew, and changing your hull size, different kinds of cargo. All that. It will be very tweakable.
Okay, will there be any SVS combat? There you go. I've just coined a new term.
No, not to start with.
Okay.
As always, with every update we ever do, we've had, let's say, 1,000 ideas, and 100 of those we'll be putting into player imports. So we've got all sorts of ideas that we would like to do in the future, and more expansions to the idea. It's incredibly high-level content, so we need to make sure we look after our high-level players, but not forget about everybody else.
Brilliant. Okay, Weaslist on the forum says, can you please stop delaying the Elf series? Seriously, can Mod Cressel move on to it as soon as the EOC is done? Quests are more important than bosses, since quests usually contain bosses anyway.
I don't quite understand the logic there, but I love the Elf storyline. The problem with that is that we know that the next quests we produce for the elves are going to be a huge amount of effort for us. Not that they're not worth the effort, but if you decide to put your effort on that, it means you're not doing something else. And the elf storyline, the next parts of that, we're talking about a huge elf crystal city. A massive, massive job, not only for graphics, but gameplay, testing, design, audio, everything. We probably asked for some more engine support as well if we were going to do something cool like that. And actually, the HTML5 type stuff that we're working on, all the really cool new things that you can do with upgraded graphics, shading, lighting, textures, all of those kind of things, will be really good for us to have so that we can make a Crystal City properly shine. but it's not something that we're working on right now. I'll be honest with you and say I'd be very surprised if we did anything with the elf storyline in 2013, although I'd be very surprised if we didn't at least start working on it for 2014.
I mean, it sounds like you've thought about it.
Oh, we thought about it for ages. It's been on my top 10 list for 5 years. It's not that we don't want to do it, it's just that we think there are bigger things.
If you're going to do it,
yeah,
it's got to be massive.
There's more exciting things that we could be doing. And I know that a lot of people love the elf storyline. It's one of my favourite storylines. But, you know, we've been doing other things. Like, I'm sure people wouldn't complain about the cool Mauritania content that we've had recently. And doing things with that storyline, the effort that we have to invest to do those kind of things makes it impossible for us to also do something like the elves. You know, I've got a lot of favourite storylines. Elemental Workshop's one of my favourite storylines in the game. Love the puzzles, exactly. You know, I really enjoy that kind of content as a player. But again, it's huge effort to be able to produce content like that. And if at the beginning of every year, like now, we say, okay, of our wish list, which ones do we actually want to do? And then, what do we actually want to do that wasn't even on the wish list in the first place? You know, things like Evolution of Combat, for example, that's been on my list for longer than the Elf one.
Okay. Ruler on the forums says, really simple question here. Care to shed some light on the much awaited, there you go, player-owned ports. There you go. Well, I think you pretty much shed quite a bit of light on that.
I think I shed quite a lot of light on that.
Okay, let's skip on then to Elizabeth Osiguida's message from Facebook. Why did you take down Falador Party Room? Have you?
No. I don't understand this question. I was surprised. I thought, do you know what? I better go and have a look in Falador just to make sure it's still there. Make sure Party Pete hasn't gone off on some kind of long sabbatical.
Bender.
You know, gone off on a bender. Yeah.
He's been shut down by the local authorities.
Exactly. Yeah. He's wearing an offensive afro in a built-up area.
Yeah.
No, it's still there. It's still working. I went to World 2 the other day and had a cool party. The balloons were still dropping. It's there in Falador, top northeast corner. It's there, still there.
Elizabeth, you might just be lost. Have you found the map lately? Maybe you should check that out.
We did move it. You know, it has moved around a few times over the years. But if she says, where's the Falador Party Room, I would therefore assume that she knows that it is in the Falador. So
You'd hope so.
It's still there. I'd love it. Like, please tweet in, post on the forums, tell us why you can't find it, or indeed what's wrong with it, because I'm not sure.
Maybe it's like an invite-only secret underground party scene now.
Party Pete is too much of a party animal to do invite-only stuff. He believes that everyone should party equally. Yeah.
Okay.
Word.
Bogstorms on the forums. People have now been waiting for more than 2 years to even see a single update in construction, let alone a large one. Because of this, construction is one of the least trained skills. The skill has been in dire need of a large revamp. Looking at the graphics of player-owned houses, when will construction finally see these updates?
So we have got a construction update planned for next year, which is specifically to encourage people to train their own construction levels. So benefits that you could have in your house that only you could use. Because a lot of construction, you can go to anybody's house to do it. And actually, prayer training is still pretty good to do via your altars in your player-owned house. I've got a graphics team that are absolutely chomping at the bit to rework the houses. They would love to do that, and I intend fully to allow them to do that. Just as soon as we've done all the stuff that we're trying to do, you know, right now to do with reworking the surface areas, upgrading player armor, and all of those kind of things. I guess so. That's kind of short term.
Okay.
Long term, there are some really, really cool things that we'd like to do with player-owned house. I was chatting to Mark this week about the ideas of things like player-owned villages, player-owned towns, player-owned cities, and the idea of actually taking these cool houses that a player builds and building a street out of it, so you've actually got neighbours, you've got people that live near you.
Your friends.
Yeah, your friends. So building like a little village out of you and your friends' houses, those kind of things.
So that maybe instead of having like your own home world or something, you might have your village which could be on...
Yeah.
Would that be on a set world, do you think, or would that be?
I'm not sure. Well, again, the kind of
Early
technology,
days,
the cool technologies we're playing around with at the moment, the world is our oyster, really.
Pun intended.
Yeah, see, clever.
So there's going to be an oyster update.
An oyster update,
Right.
yeah.
Oyster skill.
Oysters, yeah, anyway. So
Oysters go under the water where ships go on top. So actually, is that like a cryptic clue that sailing's coming?
Underwater,
There is a sailing skill.
Underwater cities where you build your house inside a giant oyster. No, that is not what I said at all. Sorry. But no, that would be a really cool thing to do. So you've got your clans, you've got your citadels, and then you've almost got like streets of houses, for you and your friends and those kind of things. It's quite a cool idea.
Yeah.
And again, the technology we've been looking at recently, maybe that would need to be instanced. Maybe it could exist on a world. Years and years ago, we posted all sorts of crazy ideas, like 2002, 2003, to do with the idea of actually being able to buy land on the main game world and being able to sort of tweak it and make it your own. Whilst at the time that was kind of pie in the sky thinking, we are closer to being able to achieve something like that. I'm not about to say that we'd be able to do that straight away in 2013, but it's the kind of cool thing that we're really excited about.
Very excited about.
Okay, cool.
Specifically the user-generated content aspect of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. Rain Sedai on the forums says, the forums. When are we getting a full-scale update like text effects, hyperlink QFCs, better organised profiles, free-to-play avatars, and more? There is a whole list of great updates for the forums that has been stickied for some time in the website and forums forum and seems to have been ignored. I know that's definitely not the case, by the way. Can we get an ETA of when you're planning to help out the forums?
I don't have an ETA, but I can tell you it's in our top 10 of things to do. It's not actually the content team that work on that. There's a separate tech team called the Web Systems team. They've been flat out doing things like Jag and other updates for us. But yeah, it's way up there in terms of the things we desperately want to do.
Why is it we have the sort of forums that we have?
Because we've got a really cool community,
No, sorry,
We're
what
really
I mean is,
lucky.
no, I mean
Yes,
technically,
Paul.
why do we have technically those sort of style of forums as opposed to?
I couldn't begin to tell you.
I think part of
don't
it's just evolution.
Yeah.
I think it's just been how the tech has grown up, if you will.
Well, I suppose for a start, thinking about it, I suppose you've got to have like account avatars that actually agree with the forums that also then agree with what's going on in the game. So I suppose it's probably a bit of a feat to get everything to talk to each other, I suppose.
I think it's just, we as a company have grown, and our forums have grown, the game has grown, and we have to update those things, and the forums is one of the things that we really want to work on. There's all sorts of cool things. You mentioned the thread; it's really excellent. The idea of video links, all of that kind of stuff. Being able to embed videos, being able to do more cool things with your avatar, being able to customize the way that you post. They're all things that we would love to do. It's
just need the people to do it.
Yeah, we're just not working on it right now.
I mean, but having said that, we're again doubling the size of that team. There's 13 vacancies.
Yep.
So if anyone in the community
13 vacancies, you can do a job advert right
exactly. If
Yep.
people have keen interest in Java and other languages or enjoy working on web systems, we're
Okay. Well, tell you what,
we're
when
looking
the
to grow that
stream
team ASAP.
When the stream is up on YouTube, we'll put an annotation in there that goes to the job site. So if you do have any skills, you do want to get involved, then you can go straight to the job site.
We're always keen on employing people with good experience of RuneScape, whether or not they're
Especially with the community.
Yeah, exactly. If they understand the community, understand the game, then they're more likely to understand us.
That's
Right?
not easy.
No, it is not.
Nice plug, like that. Just to say, if you do want to get involved in tonight's stream, do give us a shout on Twitter. It's at RuneScape, and the hashtag is RSLive. Also on Facebook, it's Facebook.com/RuneScape, and also on the forums. I think we've even got some questions from Reddit as well. So if you're on Reddit,
Cool.
give us a shout on Reddit.
Have we got any shout-outs?
Actually, I've got a whole list there, but I'm conscious of doing too many, so let's do them really quickly. Die Hunted, RS Outreach, Rune Zone, RSN Mankiller, My Kings, 123 THY, Mog, Ark and the Gang from Rooters, Mod Crow, who is desperate to ride in the tank. That's one for you there, Mark.
Yeah.
Matt Sims, who wants less shout outs. That's especially for you, Matt. Ali B. Hunter Satire Pyre, Buildmaster, Eric Berry, Hannah Piper, Sam Ward, Carwin, GM, Effigy, and Clan Hopeful Trivia. So that's enough. That's too many.
I promised Jake and Engine earlier I'd shout out to them.
There you go. Okay.
Do that too.
Big shout out
Consider
to
them
Looters.
shouted out too.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, let's crack on then. Aquamage2459 on the forum says,
Aquamage.
Aquamage. Are you going to, but not 2,458, but 2,459, which I think is superior to Aquamage.
Of course.
2000.
Why would you pick any other number if you were an Aquamage?
Completely. Are you going to reintroduce Tutorial Island, and if so, when and what would it be used for?
So there's no plans to reintroduce Tutorial Island. In fact, we are intending to move/delete Tutorial Island in the very near future.
Ouch.
Yes.
Volcano.
Not a volcano, no. The Ariane quests that we're working on at the moment heavily feature the Wizard's Tower. The Wizard's Tower has always been a bit small and pokey, really, for us. We wanted to do some cooler things with it. So if you think about the landmass of RuneScape, we're extending the size of the Wizard's Tower so you can get more wizards in there and do some really, really cool stuff. Graphics team have excelled themselves. It looks absolutely amazing. And I think we've got Ariane content planned for November this year. Similar to the Ozan quests, 2 quests at the same time, that's what we're planning to do. So in order to make room for the Wizard's Tower, we need to move or delete Tutorial Island. Players haven't been there for a very long time, so we're intending just to get rid of it. Now, I've read a lot of ideas on the forums over the years and a load of ideas from our own members of staff to do with the idea of the return to Tutorial Island, where you go back to an island which is all overgrown and the NPCs there have gone a bit mad and the training rats that you used to fight on when you were a low level have all kind of grown up.
Oh,
so
the training rats.
Exactly.
Happy
the whole place
days.
is kind of overrun by these big kind of rats. It's a really cool idea. The problem is that tutorial has not existed in the game for some time. We have had all sorts of different attempts of tutorials over the year, and actually the one that we've got running at the moment in Taverley Burthorpe, I think is the best one we've ever done.
It's a nostalgia thing again, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, very much so. So actually the idea of having this crazy island where everyone that goes there is gone on this kind of nostalgia trip about you know, what they used to do, there would be more players that had no idea what it was, that never went there, that only ever read about it. So they just get really, really confused. So I think I would actually confuse more people than I made happy if I was going to do a kind of return to Tutorial Island style update. But actually the idea of going to a place that's all overgrown, that you have to chop stuff away, and creatures have mutated, that kind of stuff. Those are cool ideas that we could do all sorts of things with for content. But I don't think that it would be right for it to be on Tutorial Island because just so many people never went there, didn't experience it. It was I think, for example, the classic cape. You've got an emote where you have a little think bubble that comes out of your head. Most people had absolutely no idea what that was. And they were saying, well, that's awful. That's really cheap. Why did you do a thought bubble when you could have done a cool emote? But that was the whole joke, because we couldn't do animations in Classic. Or at least they were just kind of framed, so you'd be fighting like that. The memories. So a load of people were looking at it, wanted to get this cape because it was a new item in the game, but had no concept of what it was or what it represented. I think you'd have as many problems getting confused about, many people getting confused about Tutorial Island. So that's why I wouldn't do it.
Okay, that's a pretty full answer.
Yeah.
Cool.
Rare.
Nice.
Rare full answer.
Okay, Arab241 on Reddit says, what and when can we expect the return of Zaros? It's been a year since Ritual of the Majorat, a fantastic quest, by the way.
Certainly was.
And the storyline is one of the most intriguing in the game. So, Zaros.
So, big things with gods next year, as I said earlier. Really changing the relationship between the gods and the world, and there'll be all sorts of really cool stuff that's going on next year. Some of it will be involving the forces of Zaros.
Awesome. Okay. Antonio Johnson on Facebook says, more grand exchanges. Every time I go to GE, it lags because so many players are there at once. So maybe putting a grand exchange in Falador or Sears Village would be a good thing, or even Al-Kharid.
That is something we've thought about. If you go to Keldagrim, you'll notice on the top of the big castle-y thing in the middle. There's a trading floor. We thought about putting a mini game there for a while, putting a different version of the Grand Exchange there, even come up with new mini game mechanics to do with stocks and shares and kind of future exchanges, those kind of things. I think, there's no reason why we couldn't put more exchanges around the game world. I think personally there is something to be said for this idea that everyone's trading in the same place. It's got those whole kind of images of like Wall Street or like big places where everyone's buying and selling at the same time. I know that there are downsides to that. I know that people can experience lag just because of the concentration of different individuals with different outfits and different emotes and animations going on all at the same time. We've tried to do something about that by spreading the Grand Exchange out a bit more, so they should be experiencing less lag than they will have done beforehand. The basic answer to the question is yes. There's no reason why we can't do it, and we'd love to do some cool stuff to do with trading and mini games about trading.
Okay. Append Miku on the forum says, do you have any plans in the future for releasing new continents in far-off lands such as the notorious Eastern lands?
It's a bit of a reveal. Woo! The players will be exploring elements of the Eastern lands via the Player Imports update. So their ships and the captains that they send out will be doing things to do with the Eastern lands and bringing you the spoils. I personally am much more interested in finishing the existing continents right now and making that world map complete than introducing new continents, but it's not something that I don't want to do. And I'd love to have a time when the players can sort of set foot on the Eastern lands themselves, or even look back at some of the really cool ideas that we've had almost 10 years ago now to do with islands run by lizard men, all sorts of things like that. They're cool ideas. Right now I'm committed to finishing what we're doing on the standard surface world, if you like. But don't think that for a second that it's all going to just stay the same as it is. We have some massive, massive changes planned for things on the surface world.
Cool. Die Hunted on the forum says, what is the future going to be like for player moderators?
Great question. Look, so player moderators are a huge part of the community, help us do so much and give us a terrific channel back into the community. It's about 2,000 at the moment, and I think the team want to grow that to about 10,000, so they'll be actively recruiting ambassadors in the game.
Do we know what kind of players we're looking for?
Yeah, cool ones. It's a great question. In the old days, you became a player moderator for reporting. I think was probably the biggest achievement. And I was always conscious I don't want RuneScape to be a nanny state or anything like that. I think what I'd love to do is have players who really help grow the community, however that might be it socially, be it like mentoring, whatever else. It kind of showcase them as our ambassadors, or equally players have really achieved phenomenal stuff. I think there's a number of categories we could look at, but I want to kind of take it beyond just this kid said ass reported.
Yeah.
I really people who really help grow the game and stuff. I think would be what I would be thinking of.
So it's more about advocates rather than people that are
advocates, ambassadors, mentors. It kind of feels like there's a whole opportunity there, and a lot of this goes on in game anyway.
Yeah.
And we don't, we haven't historically recognized it, and given it a voice. And I think we want to use the player moderator system for that.
Sometimes it's about just individuals that choose to spend their game time helping others.
Yeah.
People that choose to organise events, those kind of things. I think for me, the real kind of badge of honour for a PMod is someone that sometimes in-game puts other people before themselves. Sure. And that's really what we're looking for, people who are prepared to do that. Not people who are just like, well, what's in it for me? As soon as you say, what's in it for me, you're not our PMod. But our PMods, the ones that, the really quality PMods that we have now, they don't care about the crown, they don't care about they don't believe that they have like a better connection to Jagex. I think a lot of people say that, oh, if I become a PMod, then it means I'll get listened to more. That's not how it is. You know, these are people that are interested in making the game a better place. They're not doing it for themselves, they're doing it for the game, and that's what we want.
Awesome. Aket Shemu on the forum says, as new quests and features now include more and more voice acting, will you be looking to redo all the quest dialogues with voice acting in the future to bring everything up to date?
Yes.
You're nodding seriously, Mark.
Yeah, we are.
Excellent.
Audio is really important for me. We're storytellers, and we want to have the players involved in this really cool immersive game world. And one of the tools that we have to make people feel truly immersed in the game world is making sure that the audio is up to date. And that's not just the voices, that's like the background sounds that they have, the little tunes, the ambience, the kind of experience that they have while they're going through the game world.
2 Ozan quests are just the best example of that.
Well, also, think Ozan and One Piercing Note, those kind of quests. The Queen Black Dragon one we did earlier on in the year, which name I've now forgotten. I'm sure some players will remind me what that was called. How much content we do. Song from the Depths. Well done, Paul. Bravo to you. High five.
He does play the game.
He does.
In your face, Jane.
In your face. They're really important to us, and you can see the difference that the audio makes to those kind of experiences. Like I say, we've listened to some really cool stuff recently, some full orchestral pieces to do with RuneScape. I think there's some videos coming out about that.
There might just
year.
be, yeah.
Yeah. I'm doing spoilers for you now.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Payback.
Yeah. When we go back to the old parts of the game, when we rework that content, whether it's from a graphical perspective, from a story perspective, we want to do it from the audio perspective as well, and really make these places sing.
Let's move on really quickly.
I mean, that's one of those things I'd love to see accelerated.
Yeah.
And it's going to need some more resources to do that, but we all feel very strongly that this is a big win for us. And
yeah, we'd
lot
really
more
like
gonna come soon.
We'd like to invest more of our team in reworking those old areas and bringing those up to scratch. Because it's all well and good doing all this really cool new content, but as soon as a player stumbles into something that's old, sometimes we're like, oh no, I don't want you to play that because because it's like 8 years old. Not that it's awful, because it's not, but it just isn't as good. It doesn't have, to use some business talk, I guess, it doesn't have the production values that we have now. The benchmarks that we set ourselves when we say this is quality, we can now launch it. It's so much higher than it used to be,
And do you think it's worthwhile bringing up to date all of the older quests?
Yeah,
as opposed to maybe spending the time on new content instead?
Well, it's always tricky because for your existing players, they've already experienced that content. Sometimes we can change it and allow them to replay it. So, for example, the Ozan quests that we've got, that is elements of it are a replacement for the old quest that we have called Prince Ali Rescue, but we're not saying to people, if you've completed Prince Ali Rescue, you can't do this. So sometimes there are key elements of stories that we really like, but we want to change it so much that we'll just keep those key elements and not try and keep the rest of it in there. Ariane, for example, there's stuff in there which is introducing the concept of the wizards, and the Ozan quest, we're intending to do things to do with the Black Knights, the old Black Knights Fortress quest, which again is a little bit old and a bit dated. We'd like to rewrite that content and just. So sometimes you just have to take the harsh step of saying this stuff isn't working for us. It would be better for us to remove it from the game totally and invest the development time into doing something better. Again, it's the things that people get sad about. They look at these things with rose-tinted glasses. I still see people on the forum saying, "Oh, where's Romeo and Juliet? It was my favourite quest." Yeah. But really, it wasn't right for RuneScape. Although we have thought about giving them a bit of a cameo appearance, perhaps later on in the year.
Is that another spoiler?
It might be. We've got some pretty cool things planned for Christmas, and maybe a little bit of Romeo and Juliet wouldn't hurt.
Okay. Skillgod Tom on the forum says, with the 200th quest coming up, do you have anything special planned, and if so, what?
So I'll be honest with you and say we're not thinking about it at all right now. It would be some time away, so I'm not investing a lot of development time, a lot of thought time into 200th Quest. Obviously, with the 100th Quest, we did Recipe for Disaster. That was awesome. 6-7 different parts all at the same time. And then for our 150th Quest, we did Chosen Commander, which was the big ending to an existing storyline. It will be at least that big.
Okay, that sounds pretty big.
Yeah.
Okay. Lucine Sweet says, do you have plans in the long term to increase the skills level limits into 120? You may have said otherwise in the past, but the game changes by the day. She knows you.
She does.
And we will seriously need that change in the future.
No. I don't want to raise it beyond 99. I think 99 is enough to ask of people. I think going to 120 with Dungeoneering was the right kind of thing to do because we wanted to sort of generate this feeling of end game in RuneScape, and also the XP potential at the high levels of Dungeoneering are crazy compared to the other skills. The progression curve in RuneScape, particularly the XP curve, I should say, is particularly steep, and I'm not interested in taking that any higher. I don't think that would be the right thing to do.
Okay.
We really want to go wider rather
Yeah.
than deeper, don't we? In
I
terms of
totally
new
agree.
skills and stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I think that's the best way to keep the skillers, or to keep those people interested in their levels, is to keep releasing new skills. Although obviously, if we get to a point where we think the game's already too full of skills, then we think about different things. I think a good example of that is what we were kind of giving some spoilers on last week, which was the idea of equipment you can level, weapons that you can level, characters like pets that you can level, allies that you can level up. You know, if you look at something like temple trekking, you can actually level up your little friends as you go through those things. I really like that idea. I love the idea of saying, here's my pickaxe. I have leveled up this pickaxe. It can do things that your pickaxe can't do. And you can add mechanics that get skillers really excited and those kind of people that are really interested in getting their levels up really high, but you don't actually need to generate a new skill in order to do that.
All right. Joke on the forums says, will we ever see a day-night transition in terms of lighting, similar to what you did with the clan citadels within the entire game? So day and night cycles in RuneScape.
Sounds cool. I'm not sure the development effort would be worthwhile, personally. I think there would be better things that we could do with our time. Having said that, I know that it's something that's cool and it's exciting, and the new graphical tech that we're playing with at the moment would allow us to do better things with our lighting. It is really quite cool, some of the things that we've been looking at, this kind of dynamic lighting, the way that it affects the environments that you're in, you know, flickering flames. We've got elements of that in RuneScape right now. We could do a lot more with it. There are also bigger questions, which is, when is day and night? Is day and night predetermined by us? So does it run on UK time? Do we have different day-night cycles running for different servers? Do we mimic the day-night cycle of where you're logging in from in the game world? It asks a big question. If you say, okay, well, it's just going to run on English time, then those players that always play at the same time every day, they're only ever going to see day or night.
Yeah.
So there are lots of complications there. We do use light quite a lot throughout the game. You know, whether it's like no light at all if you've got your candle extinguished down in the goblin mines, or, you know, can't think of another example, like Mauritania, where you go into different areas and we change the lighting and change the relationship between light and the game. I quite like those effects, and I'd really like to do more with that, and the concept of having a day-night cycle would upset that kind of stuff. So yeah, it sounds cool, I'm just not sure if it would be worthwhile.
I guess the content would have to sort of rely on the fact that it was a day-night. You know, it'd have to be relevant to what else is going on. I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise it's just
Otherwise it's just darker.
Exactly.
arbitrary.
And then lighter
It
again.
would be really nice. I mean, I've played a lot of games over the years where when it gets darker, it gets more dangerous. So the idea of creatures coming out at night and preying on the weak and innocent, that's quite a cool idea. But like I say, I'd rather sort of have an environment where that kind of happened naturally. So you could have, I don't know, you could have somewhere in the fairy kingdom where there were mushrooms that grew at certain times during the day, and they kind of emitted a certain light that would attract other creatures. You could do a really cool hunting update where you're kind of lighting fires, attracting creatures to the flames out of the darkness. That kind of stuff would be a lot cooler. In fact, some of the stuff that we did with, this is terrible, Firemaker's Curse, that kind of idea might be something quite cool to do, where you're actually, your light sequences are actually part of the gameplay. I think I'd rather do that.
That does sound kind of good.
Yeah, I mean, I expect we probably, in terms of increasing ambience and stuff, as Mark said, I think we got all the tools, and graphically we'll be able to do that even better. I think perhaps introducing weather systems and things like that might again mean more, as in it gives you more tools to set an environment rather than just day and night switches in the overworld.
Okay. Void Knight on the forums says, can the in-game user interface be player customizable, like moving and dropping interface tabs in the interface slots?
That is something we would love to do. Something that we're working on a new top-level interface right now for RuneScape 3 or whatever we call it next year. Those are the kind of things that we're looking at right now.
All right, okay.
I mean, way down the line with the new architecture. We're also hoping to make it more pluggable, so players can actually hook into it and customize it. But that's quite far down the road.
Okay. Got to be careful how I read this next name. Random Dandy says, would it be possible to focus more on the small changes to RuneScape? Oh, I can't see this. The patch notes and in other news often excite me more than the main update of the week. These changes are always popular amongst players, especially the more experienced ones. These small updates don't take long to sort out and therefore are really worth it. In brackets, very high return for time invested.
That's always a good thing, obviously. Yeah. I think it's worthwhile pointing out that, on average, the smallest pieces of game content that we work on, when that's the update for the week, is a minimum of 8 weeks. And sometimes there'll be small little jobs that we identify that we can fix and do something about. Generally, each one of those could take like a week of time. So there's no such thing as a small fix, really. It's not like one developer spending an hour on something. It's got to be graphically supported, audio, testing, etc., etc. But I love those kind of small updates. And sometimes, a few years ago, we kind of even had these kind of quick, I can't remember what we called them actually, but they were weeks which was just a whole collection of these tiny little updates and different tweaks to different things. They're really important to us. Help us to identify them. The forums are absolutely great for suggestions, but they tend to be massive, huge ideas. It'd be really cool if we could have those tiny little ideas as well. So that would be really good for us. And I believe that you're even planning to do some stuff with these patch notes in the near future.
So the behind-the-scenes videos that we do, shout about the big updates that are coming, the really big exciting things. But there's also lots of other little tweaks and changes that go on that are reported each week that do sort of tend to go under the radar a bit. And so we wanted to make like a weekly video that just kind of highlights those points and just gives it people, because it can be quite dry really, just a really big sort of like wall of text about tweak here and a tweak there. So we're going to be putting some videos together, probably coming out sort of middle of next month, I think is when they start. Random Dandy, still got to be careful. It's coming. It's a work in progress. Do you have another question?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, seeing as we're here. Trevor Ghost on the forum says, can Jagex do anything to increase the quality of feedback response? While the Q&As are a nice start, it seems that with every update our feedback is passed on, never to be heard of again. Could you perhaps follow through on feedback better, especially when it's a big issue such as Solomon or Squeal of Fortune? I've actually got something I want to say on that as well, but you go first.
So short answer from me. The feedback that we get, it's entirely up to the players, the quality of the feedback that they give us. One of the things that we kept going on about with the combat one last week is that it's no good giving us a kind of one-word answer on something. We need to have decent feedback. We need people to tell us how they feel about something, why they feel about it that way, and what they could do, what they would suggest to change.
But I think
that's probably the most important bit.
Yeah, and I guess it's a shame that we can't personally reply to every one of those pieces of feedback. It's the same with things like the suggestion forums, where people are like, well, I want you to recognise that you've listened to my suggestion because it's my idea, and when it goes in the game, I want you to credit me for my idea. Every day, I go on the forums and someone says, oh, I think you should have horses in the game, and this is what horses should do.
That's a good idea.
Every day, thousands of people do that for the first time.
Yeah.
And people have talked about horses for at least 11 years in RuneScape. People in this building. We can't individually reply to every one of those people and say, yeah, well done, you came up with the horses idea, really nice. It would be great to do that, but it's a huge amount of man hours to do something like that. We have one of the busiest forums in the world. We would have to have 10 times as many staff right now, a much bigger building, to even answer a quarter of those. It would be impossible for us to do that. We'd love to, but it's just not. It's not feasible. You can't do those things. The feedback, just trust me when I say the feedback is listened to, it is passed on. We just don't always have the time to reply. And those people that we do reply to, that reply doesn't get copied and sent to everybody that's ever come up with that suggestion or come up with that feedback. It is listened to, I absolutely promise you, but it's difficult for us to personally reply to everything.
And keep it coming, I think.
Yeah, more feedback, please.
I mean, I know that one of the things we want to do with the next season of Runecast is to do a bit of a follow-up on, maybe sort of like follow that process through the chain, so people can see kind of like how their feedback is taken on and how that then makes it into a game.
It's one of the really cool things about things like RuneFest, because you actually someone can give you an idea and you can say, okay, here are some elements of that idea that won't work. What would you do? How would you reconsider it? It's, the ideas that we have come in, the feedback that we have come in, they're a really, really small thing, and actually the work that it takes for us to turn that into an actual change to the game is absolutely massive, and everybody always underestimates the kind of effort that it takes to produce content. So yeah, sometimes it's just impossible to engage in a kind of extended dialogue with someone about what works with what, like trying to dissect their feedback, which is why it was so much better for us when we have something that's really well laid out, well thought about, because we can just take it and go, oh right, that makes sense. It's so much easier for us to do anything with that kind of feedback.
Okay.
So you said you wanted to add something to that?
Well, no, that was it really. It's just that, in Runecast we do want to be following that kind of feedback process a bit more, and I mean, we want to do a lot more of these Q&A sessions in the future, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that at the end of these sessions, there's always going to be questions that are left over that, such and such didn't get their question answered or something like that. So again, with Runecast, we want to be able to use that as an opportunity to kind of follow up on these Q&A sessions really, and get more questions answered if we can, and see what sort of some of the ideas and the thoughts that come up in these sessions, follow them up and see where they kind of end up. So okay. Subasa Chronics on Twitter. I've been practicing that name.
Do you want to take a break, or?
I reckon that we've got
another one. Do you want to tell us about anything cool to do with RuneScape Spanish?
No.
No?
No, not at the moment.
That's a real shame.
You rehearsed it so well.
We're going to come back to that one after the break.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Subasa Chronics on Twitter says, do you think that RS will ever go completely free to play? And will we also see multiple characters per account?
Multiple characters per account, yes. As part of RuneScape 3, or shortly after, completely free to play, don't know. Certainly no firm plans to do so, and I think we want to continue to offer a VIP experience to our members. They've helped us achieve pretty much everything we've done to date, so we're always going to want to keep that and respect that. But at the same time, we'll have to see what the future holds. There's certainly no fixed plans at the moment, but
yeah. Right now, our focus is on membership, about giving a good experience for our subscribers.
Okay.
That has never changed.
Peter Mateague on Facebook says, could the gods be involved more in the game in the future? I think we've already answered that one, haven't we?
Yeah,
really?
Massive god stuff next year. Huge, never seen before.
Peter's talking about people being actually aligned to the god, and would you increase combat levels to allow for stronger enemies? So we've already answered that. Really, no, we're not going to increase combat level.
I would encourage people to align to gods, and right now they can do some cosmetic stuff to show which ones they like. I'd like to do some more of that. Some, you know, imagine like gods trying to take over the world. You know, imagine like gods saying, that city, I want that city, and you know, creating big fights and what's going on in the city itself, changing the shape of the city, and actually, you know, watching the city evolve as these gods start duking it out. You know, something like that would be really cool.
Brilliant. Okay, so I have one more question and then we will take a break. Okay, Ovi Honoriosi on Google Plus says, when can we expect a major update to Candor? The whole area seems sort of bland and underused.
It is one of the areas we've neglected too much. Places like Idoin, for example. I've been working with my graphics team quite recently on reworking those environments. Same with Sears Village. You know, there's big spaces in Candor which we haven't touched for a long time, and I'd like to do something about that. Okay,
brilliant. Okay, so yes, we are going to take a break now then for a few minutes. This week you're off the hook, guys. You'll be glad to hear. No jib jab videos of you this week.
Shame.
Instead, we do have behind the scenes number 20, which is all about the Festival of the Dead, and also coming very soon, we've got a new video from XI Alvin IX. He did a really cool hip hop video for us not so long ago. And he's hooking up with Jordan and Elijah to do another video for us. That's coming really soon. So before we actually get to see that, we thought we'd also take another quick look back at the Ozan track that he made for us, NPC. There are 13 NPCs mentioned in the track, and see if you can guess all 13. They're all there, though.
I didn't. I couldn't do it.
Okay, let's get some pens and paper on the go, and we'll see if we can do it in the break. So yeah, we're going to collect all of your tweets together, all of your Facebook messages, and yeah, we'll see you in a few minutes.
Bye.
Thanks, Roy.
Throughout your RuneScape life, you've no doubt met hundreds of NPCs. Some of them are now sadly pushing up daisies in the Lumbee Cemetery. Don't be glum though, because guess what? Thanks to the Festival of the Dead, they're back! What's the Festival of the Dead? We asked Mod Hunter that very question.
The Festival of the Dead is quite similar to the real-life event of the Mexican Day of the Dead. Essentially, they decorate an altar with flowers, sugar skulls, objects related to the person who was dead, which they would like. This is celebrating their life instead of mourning that they're gone. It lends itself well to RuneScape just because we've got so many dead NPCs which you can just never visit again. So this is essentially a way to just get something back from NPCs that have been dead and some storylines that you may have forgotten about. To celebrate the dead NPC, they first need to speak to Father Joachim, the priest who is organising the entire event. He has a short list of a few people who he wants to celebrate, but he needs help in finding an object relating to them. Once the player has found all of the objects that are needed and they're all placed on the altar, the celebrations will start, and the player will be in a cutscene with some additional added NPCs who are also related to the deceased. The rewards are a cosmetic mask, which is essentially like a painted face in the way that the skull appears. And additionally, the player will gain bonus XP in prayer, which, when they're training prayer, will double the XP they would normally gain. This event does not replace the Halloween event. There is also one of those coming later on in the month.
Next week, if you like the changes to God Wars, you'll love what's in store for the King Black Dragon.
That aren't even, like, honestly, think about it, check it, this one dude.
The name is Ozan, man from the distant desert land, home of the gold sand and the man-made fan. I'm packing power in a quiver that you just can't stand, and have you pinned against the wall with the rest of your clan. I'm saying F-Cape swaggin', I bet you never had this. 60-hour waves got you paved into practice. Reaping to your doom, I assume that you strapped with bruising my stores, but you better pray fast, kid. Quit asking, click get active. It's the general with the swag of the castles. Pretty nice stab, but your cash steady splashing. Wanna PVM meet Grim the assassin. The evil cat with the cloak of the blackest. It's 2 feet tall and got your net for some catfish. The portal to the mortals is the moral of the package. So when he starts napping, it's running over that quick.
I think we need some more NPCs.
No, check it. It's the wise old man who been plotting on a plan that'll bankrupt RuneScape all across the land. If only he'd have broke Brody could've warned him of the cam, and the two could've scrammed with the mills and the grams. Kiss me, broad, are you tipsy? You, me, and Frog, I a pawn, not a gypsy. Oh, a princess, I incest on a kiss scene. Need a rich king, that's me. Mine is nice, the type to party and proceed to meet a hottie trust. And plus, I'll have a room littered with balloons to bust. Dancing hottie, well, you surely haven't partied rough, cause Peter had you thrashed and bashed like you didn't had enough. I hate to mention such a cruel contradiction with all intentions to have your life non-existent. Stay persistent, think straight through restrictions, and meet me class say why I stay in my dominion. Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin, but Romeo send message to his precious little friend. She can catch word that a herd full of men been stomping on his limbs, and it ain't no pretend now distend. But stick with me if you comprehend. Molly's always jolly, but she's got an evil twin. The nerdy works become the dirty work to condescend, so we throw her in the pen and ascends with the wind. The nerdy works become the dirty work to condescend. The nerdy works become the dirty work to condescend. The nerdy works become the dirty work to condescend, so we throw her in the pen and ascends with the wind. The nerdy works become the dirty work to condescend. The nerdy works become the dirty work to condescend. The nerdy works become the dirty work to condescend, so we throw her in the pen and ascends with the wind.
Hello, we're back.
Woohoo!
Did you enjoy that video?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Excellent. Okay, that was quite sad to see your face not grafted onto
I know.
a model dancing around.
I can't say I was massively disappointed that that wasn't going to be a video.
Okay, there's still time. Though. We do need to do more of these in future.
Yeah. Also, if anyone is listening, if you could do a video where Paul and Jane are the ones that are being ridiculed, I would
That'd
love
be
that. And you know,
I'd pay to watch that.
yeah, I would pay to watch that. We might even.
If you'll
give
pay
you
to
a-
watch it, I'll
we
make
may-
it. That's
we-
fine.
We may even give you a special prize or a mention in the game. You know, if you were going to do something like that, and that would personally make me very happy. And
I'll get
would
behind
be a
it.
little bit of revenge. If it was
We're
Paul
running out
and
of time,
Jane.
Mark. We're going to have to
Paul
move
and
on,
Jane.
man.
It's got to be Paul and Jane though. Or maybe Emily.
Emily's got off really lightly so far, actually. Okay.
Sorry, I meant
Right.
Emily.
So, ZDragon999 on the forums has said, will RuneScape be released in other languages like Dutch? I know that the Dutch community is very large.
Would you like to answer that question, Paul?
Okay, so they'll be trying to get me to say that RuneScape is coming in Spanish next year. So, RuneScape se viene en español al año que viene.
Bueno!
There you go. I think that's more or less right. I'm really sorry if that's badly wrong.
Just
I'm sure
offended
that
someone.
Ita will remind me of how not to speak Spanish. Okay. What about Dutch? Bit of Dutch?
I don't really know.
We've
any
currently
Dutch.
got. Sorry.
He's going off on one. Well, we've got.
So currently the only plan is Spanish Q1 next year.
Yeah.
And I think we'll be looking at other languages beyond that.
Okay, so it's coming.
Post-Spanish.
So Spanish is coming Q1 next year.
Well, very soon. We're working on it right now.
Okay, and Dutch we're not too sure.
Yeah.
There's no plans at the moment,
There's no
but-
plans to do that.
Okay. Right, next question then comes from. Oh wow, this is quite a Spanishy name. Hamon Jim 13.
What's that mean, Paul?
Ham Jim 13.
Ham Jim 13.
Yeah. Okay.
Fan
I
of
understand that Optimus is coming out in bits and pieces. Can you tell us by when this will be implemented completely? Most of the community thought that Botany Bay was the end. Was the end all be all to bots? Was the end of bots?
Yeah.
However, they are still around, especially at drags and chins. What kind of information can you tell us about the release of Optimus? Are we looking forward to another year of continuous botting, or is it a matter of a month or so?
So when we launched Botany Bay, we wanted to be very careful. It's a very powerful system, unlike the previous system, which just broke bots, and then once they worked around, they were back in. So it was a very binary, we have a plague or we don't. As we indicated in the previous Q&A, this looks at behaviors, significantly more sophisticated than anything we've been produced before. And with that, it's also incredibly powerful. We've eradicated bots from a number of areas very effectively, and that also includes gold farming spam. We also accidentally banned some 40,000 innocent players last week,
Yeah.
just because a
Friendly fire.
minor tweak on the algorithm. So with that comes great responsibility. I'd rather have a handful of bots than ban an innocent player
Yeah.
any time of the week. So we're being very careful and measured. We're continuing to expand the surveillance of it, if I can call it that, and we'll be targeting areas in series over the next few weeks and months. But this all starts on the basis of safety, and the last thing we want to do is actually ban legitimate players. So we'll keep moving it out, and we'll keep stamping this problem out. I'm confident this is not something that can be worked around, and at the same time, that we're comfortable to take our time and deal with it properly once and for all, rather than just what we had last time with a big bang, no bots for a few months, and then basically an epidemic afterwards.
Yeah, so they should really think about Botany Bay as the beginning of us solving the problem, rather than a kind of be-all, end-all solution. As Mark said, we've got to be careful with the way that we introduce these things.
Okay. RSN Mankiller.
By the way, we unbanned and fixed all
did.
of those 40,000 accounts.
It's not
Very
dangerous
quickly.
to log into RuneScape or anything like that. Like we fixed the problem incredibly quickly, so no one's lost out.
And those accounts are all back in action again now, yeah?
All
Yes, all of
within
them.
minutes.
Yeah.
Within minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. RSN Mankiller. What are the plans for the Dragonkin in the future? I love them and would love to see more of them soon.
I love the Dragonkin. They were kind of partly my creation, I guess. I'm a big fan of that, and the whole idea of this kind of force defending the Stone of Jas will definitely come into things in the near future. It's one of my storylines, so stuff that I'm very interested in doing.
Okay. Sakatsu Decon on Reddit says, will we ever see a use for fire making? I've seen plenty of ideas on the forums for uses of the skill, but all that's been added are different ways to train.
Yeah, I'd very much like to do that. I always talk about the fact that I'd like to see multiple ways of players training their different skills, whether it's kind of high effort, low effort, community orientation, via quests, those kind of ideas. At the moment, there are a very small amount of things that you can do with fire making, although actually things like the beacon network lighting I actually quite like. Perhaps we didn't get it quite right. And I'd like to see more of that kind of stuff. With FireMaker's Curse, we introduced some other ways of training your fire making as well, other benefits that you would get from fire making, patterns of fires on the floors. I'd like to see more of that, yeah, definitely. We did do quite a lot to fire making this year, actually, with a sort of quest orientated around fire making and a significant other way of training your fire making. So I don't think that fire making's done badly this year. I would expect us to work on different skills next year, particularly things like summoning, agility.
Okay. Next up is Astarius on the forums. Are there any plans to either remove player-hosted gambling from the game or make a casino for them to operate in? Love this question.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's things that Mark and I have talked about a lot. So previously, I never thought that, I've always believed that gambling wasn't right in RuneScape. But actually, when I thought about the activities that they were involved with, actually, it wasn't too far away from the kind of things that you do in the wilderness, really. RuneScape players are looking for high risk, high reward gameplay. And actually, the idea of putting money on, putting some gold pieces on the result of a flip of a coin is high risk gameplay. The downside with what's currently going on in the game is that the way that players are gambling, there's no rules to support them. So they are at the mercy of being scammed, which is a real shame. And I had some good meetings this week with some of the customer support team on how we can do more to help people who've been scammed and stop scamming. And also we know that, and we've proved that a lot of the money which has gone through different hands ends up going to gold farmers being sold, which is something illegal that we don't tolerate in any way at all. So I'm committed to removing the problem that we currently have in the game and giving the players an alternative, something that is similar to the kind of gambling that they're doing at the moment, but something that we're more comfortable with in terms of the way that it works in the game world, and also something where we think that we can give them the support that they need. To
not get scammed.
Yeah, exactly. There are a lot of better ways and safer ways that we can provide that kind of high-risk gameplay without all of the downsides that we currently have. And I'm definitely 100% committed to doing that next year.
Amazing. All right. Got a couple of responses to your earlier comments.
Cool.
Doggy Fizz 12 says,
Cool name.
in reply to you mentioned about having a mobile app earlier on. How soon? Question mark, exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark, etc.
We think, so, you know, we touched on, we've got a few high priority projects on, not just from content, but a tech perspective. So the team is completely slammed. At the same time, this is something we really want to do. So exactly when depends on when we can find time to do it. We have already made some progress and spoken to a few other people who can help us do this. So it's not just you know, going to burden the team here, but something hopefully we can do in parallel. But it's going to require a lot of integration with our engine and other things too, which would take time. So aspirationally, I'd love to see it Q1, Q2 next year. In reality, I just don't know.
So Q1, Q2, we're talking, that's what, spring, sort of summerish sort of
Yeah.
time. Okay.
That'd be awesome, but we just don't know.
We've never done this before.
Yeah.
You know, quite a lot of the time we can learn as we're going on, but actually the idea of like an external product communicating with RuneScape in some way or another is something we've never ever done before. So, you know, we just don't know. It's new lands for us. You can't say how long will it take you to explore a place where you can't even define its size. And that's pretty much the situation that we're in now.
Nice analogy.
Thanks.
Okay. Google says on Twitter, which is confusing, in reply to hearing 2 new skills, very excited.
Did you go woohoo? Because I did.
Yes. Well, I'm assuming that we're very excited. I take that as a woohoo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Will they be released together, or will they be separate releases with like a 2-month interval?
Definitely separate releases. I'd be hopefully looking at one towards the beginning of next year and one towards the end of next year.
Okay. How are we doing for time? Not bad. Okay. Doc Sitfath on Twitter says, any information on the evolution of summoning you've announced?
So right now we're focusing on combat. When we're trying to get combat sorted, and then we're dealing with summoning afterwards. In the short term, there's going to be some tweaks to the pet system that we've had for a while. In the long term, we're looking at more of a fundamental change to the way that summoning works.
All right.
Just changing the amount of time that you have to spend making pouches, dealing with charms, those kind of things. Changing the effective strength of the monsters that you fight with as well, making them more useful to you. You know, as a player, I'm always running around with summoning creatures no matter what I do. I've always got like a granite lobster with me if I'm fishing, or a beaver if I'm chopping down my trees, and I don't see enough of them out there because for a lot of players, the effort in order to generate those pouches aren't worth the return that they give.
Right.
So really be looking at increasing the return, so making it more justified for you to say it's worthwhile you spending your time doing this. You know, I'd love to get to a point where a player could have a follower behind them, like they could have their summoned creature, they could have their pet, they could have like, you know, a mercenary or whatever. So actually, you're not just your avatar running around the game, but you've almost got like a personal army behind you. I'd love to do something like that, and getting summoning reworked would be the first step into that journey. But, you know, as we said from the beginning, if you think about all the different ideas that we've discussed so far and the size of the development effort that it would be to do all those things, it would be impossible for us to achieve everything that we have discussed already, let alone all of the other cool ideas that haven't come up at all. So we'll see.
Okay. Matt Nason on Facebook says, will there be a way to revert back to the old ways of how the armour looks?
No.
Okay.
Is the short answer to that one.
The Little Man on Reddit says, we love these streams. Getting a chance to talk to and hear back from the team has been quite an experience. Will these streams be continued for other topics? I can say yes, they definitely will. We think we're probably going to do maybe one a month, and then and the subject that will come up for that will be, I don't know, whatever you guys are discussing the most on the forums, or whatever seems to be like, you know, the the big topic of the day, we want to kind of address those because we've got a huge amount out of doing these streams ourselves, and
Yeah.
it's been really good fun.
Yeah,
So,
after every one, I'm kind of straight back to my desk,
Yeah.
write down a few thoughts and a few, results of some discussions, send a few emails out, get people to think about stuff.
Cool. Okay. Andy UK says, where does Jagex see RuneScape being in 2 to 5 years' time?
In an even more awesome place than it currently is.
The world's #1 adventure,
Yeah,
online adventure.
we want to be the biggest and best online adventure, which we believe that we already are.
Yeah.
We just want to keep going and make sure that
Leave people in no
still
doubt.
there. Yeah.
Going to new countries, new devices,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
amazing content.
Think about how much the game's evolved since 2001. I'd like to see it evolve as much again.
Brilliant. Nanwar on the forum says, I have been wondering for a while, but is there going to be some super crazy long quest that will let us questers trim our quest cape?
I love that question. It's awesome. Maybe. We have got an epically huge, seriously awesome quest for the beginning of next year. I can't tell you what it's about because it would be too big of a spoiler.
Okay.
But it's shaping up to be one of the best. I'm sure the developers will get very upset with me for saying these things. But just reading the basic concept, it was just absolutely amazing. From a design perspective, the things that they wanted to do were brilliant, and from the perspective of a player of the game, I was really, really excited. So it's going to be epic. It's going to be massive. The idea of trimming your quest cape, I don't know, it's a bit dated almost to me. I think the whole kind of fuss about trimming capes is kind of gone a little bit. I'm sure people will be very upset if I say that, but we'll see. To me, that would be something that you could do for a 200th quest, for example.
That's a nice idea.
It is.
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
thought, you could probably see the steam.
Right, we've got time for one more question then. So, Died Fire on Twitter says, rumours about the agility skill being removed. Is there a possibility that agility or another skill will be taken away?
So, there are a couple of skills. I mentioned agility and summoning. I don't particularly like the way that run energy is related to the agility skill, and I would like to change the relationship between run energy and the agility skill. I would like to add more ways for a player to train agility and not just ask them to run around courses. Summoning I've already mentioned. The fundamental problems with summoning, the amount of time you actually make pouches as opposed to the amount of time you're actually using summoning creatures. I've also got some fundamental problems with rune crafting. The principle of ammunition is something that used to be really important in games a while ago. I don't feel like they're as important anymore. So actually the basis of rune crafting and the idea of making runes, I would really like to change that. Same with fletching. I think it's very kind of one-dimensional. I think a lot of the time people just train their fletching level by making bows, stringing bows. It's not there. Like a ranger will rarely be using the fletching skill to actually make their ammunition. They're much more likely to buy it from the Grand Exchange. So there's a weird kind of mismatch there. Same for a magician. I don't think many mages make all of their own runes, although I try to myself. Those are the skills that I would like to do the most to: agility, summoning, runecrafting, fletching. But then there are fundamental ways that I would like to rework things like mining, smithing, the concept of encouraging people to make their own equipment, level up my X. They're all things that I would like to add to skills. Short term, definitely agility, summoning are our kind of top two. But I've heard some really interesting ideas recently from my team about changing some of the skills and changing the relationship between how long you spend running back to a bank, running back to a site, changing those kind of things. It's interesting that, most of the time you're mining, you're not actually mining at all. You're kind of running between mining sites. That's an interesting one for me. Again, it's something that's quite unique. It's very RuneScape-y, but whether or not we want to carry on with that kind of thing, I'm not really sure. Again, that is all very, very kind of long-term thinking. And fundamentally rewriting the way that skills work is as big or a bigger job than the evolution of combat that we've just done. So you can't do all these things at the same time. You've just got to pick the right moments, really.
Brilliant. Okay, I think it's probably a good place for us to leave it then.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much, guys, for coming in.
Thank you.
Again, I mean, what you've been in like 3 weeks out of 4, haven't you? Pretty much, both of you?
Yeah, not bad.
That's pretty good going. That's
Well
pretty
done.
good going.
Wingman.
Yeah, that's it.
How do you sort of like feel these sort of streams? How do you feel about them?
I absolutely loved
They're
it.
brilliant. It's really enjoyable. You know, like I was saying earlier, I love talking about RuneScape. You know, there's been no RuneFest this year, and so it's been really nice to have like a different kind of medium, a different way of talking to the players and actually, you know, hearing feedback. And actually, it's provoked a lot of discussion in the game, you know, in the chat channels. So it's been really good, and I've really enjoyed it.
Brilliant.
Looking forward to doing more.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Just on that, I'm not sure if we mentioned, but we will be doing RuneFest next year.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing RuneFest next year.
Absolutely.
Yep, definitely. Definitely. Don't know where yet.
I was
Not
just going to
sure-
say, come on,
not
you might as well
sure
tell us where, so
Well,
you
you
can
know,
go
all
spoil
sort of
this.
exciting ideas to do with New York and places like that. It's all cool. It's all exciting.
Okay.
We're looking forward to doing something. You know, it was as hard for us to say, look, it's not going to be possible for us to do it this year as anyone,
Yeah.
because we love going and meeting the players and, you know, pulling some balloons and you know, having a party with the players. It's always brilliant. So yeah, this has filled that void for me. But yeah, we're looking forward to doing some cool RuneFesty stuff next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly keep doing these.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're actually going to put a thread up, rather a news post even, during the week. It's going to have a transcript and links to all the live streams that you've seen so far, but also it'll have a link to a forum thread, and we want to get your suggestions on what you'd like to see covered in a Q&A session in the future. Which team would you like to quiz? Who would you like to see sitting here? So look out for that, and yeah, we'll be back in touch soon with some new schedules for some new Q&A sessions.
Magic.
And
Cool.
I think that is me done. Oh, got a few more shout outs just to go to before we finish. Okay, I'll do these really quickly.
We got.
Little Jimmy and Big Jimmy. Lewis.
What about just Jimmy? What about normal Jimmy?
Jimmy, who cares about normal Jimmy? It's all about Big Jimmy.
It
And
doesn't
Little
have
Jimmy.
any size associated.
It's not about being
with
normal.
Brian,
Yeah,
who wants
because-
mounts and horses. DJ, Anita, hi Anita. Effigy, Light Arcana, Chat, hi. Preedy, Ogs to do. This is yours.
Is it? Oh, Hannah Poppy, #1 fan. Big shout out to you.
RuneZone, Clan Consensus from Unique.
Oh,
Play
that's a cool
Gods,
name.
Global, Clan Chat, Spirits of Arrowin. All right, Josh.
Oh, I know those. Yeah.
Clan
peeps.
Quest from Vodka B, Max Clan,
Vodka
and
B.
Ancient Wide Knights. Brilliant. Thanks, guys. We'll see you again very soon. Cheers.
Thanks,
Take
everyone.
care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye bye. Rooters out.